can bigger, bolder, faster. Going to the maximum. Going to the maximum. Going to the maximum.
Hi everyone. It's a pleasure to stay here on this stage. I'm going to talk today about DEXs, aggregators, problems which we see in DeFi, front-running problems, back-running problems. But first of all, a small introduction of my person. I'm software engineer, software architect, and co-founder of 1inch Network. I have 18 years of professional experience in software engineering. And 1inch Network itself is a set of protocols and people who are working around the globe. Right now it's 130 people who are building a lot of nice things, like, for example, decentralized order books, protocols, which can be used fully permissionless manner, liquidity protocols, and also our aggregation, which we invented back in 2019 on a hackathon in New York. Yeah, let's go. Nice animation from our director, art director. So our agenda about DEX aggregators and single DEXs, front-running, and other threats in DeFi. Also, back-running is one of the things which we solved back in 2019 by introducing our algorithm. And also our unique solution, Rabbit Hole, which we are going to present today as well. So what is a DEX? DEX is a program which is permissionless, and everyone can interact with it. So anyone can just write their own program to interact with the liquidity of a decentralized exchange. Just for example, Uniswap, you have maybe heard about them. You can write a program to buy something on one DEX, to sell on another DEX. We call it arbitrage. So what is the problem with the DEXs? And what is the aggregation itself among them? So you see these classes, these are DEXs or liquidity sources, decentralized liquidity sources, which have different prices. This curve you see on the bottom is price. Yeah? Each DEX has potentially own price and different liquidity. So, and of course you can go to each of these DEXs and exchange how much you want, but the problem is you don't know where the best price is. Yeah? It can be on Uniswap, it can be on Balancer, it can be on Kyber network, it can be somewhere else. Yeah? And exactly this problem we had back in 2019, and I and Anton, we were thinking how to solve it, because it was like our need. It's like the thing with the Porsche manufacturer, you know, the Porsche sport car. The Ferdi Porsche came to the idea to build a car because he didn't find his car which he wanted, actually. And I like this methodology. I was working also for a couple of years for Porsche, and this is kind of mentality which we also follow on 1inch. Build something if you don't find it on the market. So, of course, you can exchange here on multiple DEXs, but you need to do it by hands, like adjusting amounts. When you swapped too much, then you get worse rates. So the idea is to aggregate. And actually, this is arbitrage among decentralized exchanges. So based on the math, we can calculate how much should be exchanged where to achieve the best rate. So, and you see here this line. This is actually an arbitrage. Yeah? We buy on those specific DEXs where it makes sense based on the math. This is actually how we build it over 2 nights with no sleep at all, and solve actually a huge problem and introduce a new market, the aggregation market, back in 2019. Nowadays, we are a little bit different. We upgraded our algorithm by not just exchanging assets on one token pair, for example, if Ethereum USDC, we introduced a very complex approach to exchange among multiple markets. So just imagine we have 1inch token here as example to DAI. Of course, you can go to Uniswap and exchange directly, but then you will run into the problem that someone will backrun you. That means you exchange for the worse rate, yeah, compared to if you are splitting it among multiple liquidity sources. And someone can make money out of it by just, after you, exchanging and arbitraging on other dexes. So we came to the idea to build very complex algorithm which use multiple markets. You see, I call it pipes. So we have 3 pipes here, 3 routes, and we use different tokens in between, different markets. So here, for example, we exchange 1-inch token to WBTC, to USDC, and to DAI. And you see, on USDC, we use 3 dexes in the same time. Huge advantage of Ethereum-like environments is that we can execute atomically. Yeah? And if something goes wrong, for example, on a second pipe, the second route, if, for example, banker gets very worse rate because someone put the liquidity out in the transaction time, this transaction would be just reverted, and the algorithm, the contract, smart contract, wouldn't exchange the 1-inch token, the 20% 1-inch tokens here. We exchange here, for example, also to WETH. We swap 80% on Uniswap, 20% on private market maker. It's also a liquidity source. I hear very often that people speaking like about aggregation in DeFi, that it's kind of limited in terms of liquidity because we don't source the liquidity from centralized exchanges. So, but it's not true. There are private market makers or professional market makers who offer quotes for the users who use 1-inch. And actually what they do, they sell them something, buy something, and do arbitrage on centralized exchanges or maybe on own dark pools. So, so that means actually 1-inch is the best place to trade because you have the liquidity of DeFi and you have liquidity of centralized exchanges as well through professional market makers. We have 10 integration right now, and yeah, we are expanding it every month. So also, why aggregation makes sense and why it makes sense to use aggregator. So first of all, how I said, you don't never know where the best rate is and how deep the liquidity is on each of these dexes. And by using an aggregator, you get the best execution because the aggregator knows about the whole liquidity, yeah, which is still on this chain. And also on top of this, our aggregation router, which works similar to Uniswap router, for example, but is more efficient because we have special implementation, really low level based on assembly, which offer us better execution gas costs than on other dexes and also other aggregators as well. So we are, the last version of our router v5 is 6% better than router v4, the previous version, which we released early this year. And the second best performing player on the market is 14% under us. So we have, you save every time when you swap on 1-inch money. Yeah. So attack against DEX users. I was speaking already about backrunning. It's not that huge problem, I would say, until you exchange huge amount of money on DEXs. But we have also front-running attacks. So backrunning is when you swap something and after you there's arbitrage opportunity and someone arbitrage it and earn on it. It's one thing. And also front-running is existing. This is when you go to Aggregator or you go to a DEX, for example, Uniswap, yeah? And you exchange just like, say, 100,000 of US dollars USDC to ETH, and you send the transaction. This transaction is visible for everyone. So arbitrage trader, hackers, attackers can see it. And normally what's happening right now, these people swap, execute own transaction before your transaction, and execute another transaction after you, so buying before you, selling after you, and make a profit based on your maximum acceptable price slippage, which is highly required for decentralized exchanges like Uniswap. V3, V2, V1, and other similar AMM-based decentralized exchanges. Limit orders are different. There's a fixed limit order, and in the normal limit orders, there are also other types of limit orders, Dutch auction limit orders, which is coming also very soon on our new protocol. So this is a huge problem. Why? We have a really nice analytics team now on 1inch, and based on their research, they found out that in 2022, 800 million of US dollars were stolen from DEX users, from also aggregation users. These attackers who perform these front-running attacks are very smart. They update own algorithms and own implementation very, very fast, and yeah, cut the money from normal users. It's a lot. 800 million of US dollars. Just imagine. This is 4% of all transactions happened for swaps, like swap transactions in different networks. So we from 1inch, we have a solution for that. It's kind of a short-time solution, I would say, because Vitalik Buterin and some other Ethereum contributors are working on a solution where no one can do any front-running attacks because their transactions are hidden, are not visible. No one can know which transaction would be mined in the next block. So I hope it will come in the next years, but for now we have a solution, and we call it 1inch rabbit hole. It actually uses other services. It's just aggregator of other services. These are, for example, Flashbots. Flashbots offer, actually Flashbots was built for developers who would like to execute a transaction which shouldn't be front-run in any time. For example, to rescue funds. I know this person who built this originally, and he actually built it for just protecting developers or kind of security auditors, white hats, to recover funds. Yeah. And now this is a service which is installed on, I guess, around 70% of the validators in Ethereum, which is used to front-run people. It is, of course, it's used also by normal people, like people are using it also on 1inch since, I guess, 1 or maybe 1.5 years to protect on funds, but it's working only with specific wallets. For example, MetaMask is not supporting it. So what Flashbots provides is actually a kind of private communication to the validators. When you send a transaction, it goes directly to the miners, to the validators, previously miners. And no one can see this transaction except Flashbots. For sure, you need to trust them. Maybe they can front-run you. They can potentially back-run you as well. But from our point of view, it's better than nothing. Yeah? Better than what we have right now. And our rabbit hole solution protects from sandwich attacks, aggregate among different providers. I already said this is Flashbots and Bloxroot, for example. And some others to achieve the best execution kind of approach. We have a specific algorithm behind that which trace the transaction, understands what's happening in the transaction. If it's attackable, we try to protect that by sending it to the miner directly. I already said MetaMask is not supporting at all this approach. It requires signing transactions. That's why we came to the idea, why not to build just RPC endpoint, like Infura. Yeah? The MetaMask is using Infura. Infura is just an infrastructure service provider by Consensus. MetaMask is also a product of Consensus. And they just forward you request to the Ethereum nodes. Of course, it would be better to have a thin client which just can communicate directly with all the nodes and discover them. But right now, we have a centralization in this point. With Infura, and we decided to build own RPC endpoint to offer same service, and on top of this also swap protection for 1inch. Yeah? This works only for 1inch when you use RPC endpoint. You can find on oneinch.io a full description of the rabbit hole service. For now, it's free. And if you want to reach 1inch people or community, you can go to Twitter, subscribe to our Twitter account. We have Discord, we have Telegram, and of course GitHub with a lot of open source under MIT license. You can fork it, you can use it how you want it. We are open and decentralized, I would say. Yeah. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. If you have any questions, go ahead.
See you next year.